linear equation. So in this lecture, you'll learn how to solve, I think probably all types of linear equations. So let's start off with like the easiest linear equation that we can imagine. So something like x plus 3 equal to 5. That since this is so simple, you can probably just guess the answer. But let's learn like the proper way instead of guessing. The proper way of solving linear equation is doing the opposite of what you want to remove. Right? Our goal is to find x, right? So in some sense, you want to remove everything around x. So you want to remove this plus 3. And to remove a plus 3, what you want to do is you want to minus 3 on both sides. Okay? The reason being, a minus is like the opposite of addition. Alright, so if you have a plus 3, you want to do the opposite, you would minus 3 on both sides. So the idea is, as long as you do the same thing on both sides, that would be a legal move, right? When you do it, the equation, we call the equation is balanced, which basically means you'll get the answer right. Okay, and the reason why it works is the fact that when you have plus 3 minus 3, it will become 0. So in some sense, they cancel each other out. So you only have x on the left-hand side, and the 5 minus 3 is 2 on the right-hand side, which is probably the answer you guessed. Now, once you're familiar with this, it is possible to not even write this part. So you don't need to write the minus 3 part. So it's possible to imagine that this plus 3 simply moved to the other side, but when it moves to the other side, it will have to become the opposite of itself, so it becomes minus 3, okay, which gives 2. So you can see this step is very similar to this step, except we don't explicitly write out the plus 3 and minus 3. And obviously, if you're good with mental math, which probably you can do 5 minus 3 mentally, it's also possible to not even write this entire step, right, to just jump to this. But notice, it's not because we guessed the answer. It's not because I guessed, oh, it has to be 2, that 1 plus 3 is 5. It's because mentally, I have moved the plus 3 to the left, but when you move it, it becomes the negative. So it becomes the opposite, right? So it becomes 5 minus 3. So let's try another one. So something like 2x minus 1 equal to 5. So this time we have two things to remove. We have the 2 that is multiplied to x. Remember, 2x means 2 times x. And then we have the minus 1. In some sense, you want to remove the stuff that is furthest away from x first. So in some sense, you want to remove the minus 1 first. To remove minus 1, you want to add 1 on both sides, because the opposite of minus is addition. It becomes 6. Then to remove a multiply by 2, you want to divide both sides by 2. But we don't usually write the divide sign, so we don't write this anymore. So usually we just write over 2, as in divide by 2. They mean the same thing. So the 2 and 2 will cancel out, because imagine you have a fraction, right? When you have 2 times 3 over 2, the 2 would also cancel out. So that would cancel out the 2, which is what we want, right? We want x to be alone, and 6 over 2 is 3. But that's like the detailed way, right? If you want to do it faster, it's like you move the minus 1 to the right, so it becomes a plus 1, which gives 6. And then you want to remove this times 2 to the right, which becomes divided by 2, which of course is 3. Let's see another one. So like x plus 3 over 2 equal to 4. Now, so for this question, the divided by 2 is like the furthest thing away from x, because if you imagine this is actually a number, so maybe 5 plus 3 divided by 2, then you realize you probably have to add the 3 first, and then you divide by 2. right? So the division is done last. So in that sense, it is like furthest away from x. So we will want to get rid of the divided by 2 first. The opposite of division is multiplication. So what you can do is you can multiply both sides by 2. Alright, then divided by 2 and times 2 would cancel out. So you get 8 on the right. And then here, to cancel the plus 3, you get minus 3 on both sides. And so we get 5. Okay. So once you're familiar, the faster way to do this would be you simply move the 2 to the other side. But since this is a divided by 2, when it moves to the other side, it becomes times 2. And then when the plus 3 go to the other side, obviously it becomes a minus 3. Let's say we have 2 times bracket x plus 5 equal to 12. Now there are 2 ways to do this. One way would be you expand the bracket first. Right, once you expand, you have 2x plus 10. Then it is kind of looking like a previous example. So you could do it that way, right? That's a good way. The other way would be you don't expand, but you simply make the 2 go away in front. Right, so if you don't expand, the 2 is the furthest from x because the x is first added to the 5, then multiplied by 2. Okay, so again, to cancel out a multiplication, you want to do division. So you want to divide both sides by 2, then the 2 cancel out. And then again, to take away addition, you want to do subtraction on both sides. So let's look at how the simplified way look like. So we'll make the 2 go away, which becomes a division. Which is 6, and then the plus 5 go away, which becomes a minus on the right hand side. So it's 1. Now obviously, I guess I would say this again, and I think I said the point before already, is also possible to just write 6 on here, right? You don't even need to write 12 over 2. But like just to show you in the video, right? So if this is your very first time on seeing this topic, you might want to pause the video now to try some of the exercises. So you can find your own exercise, that's completely fine. But if you want, you can join my level 2 membership to get some of the exercise that I provide. It would also be a good support to the channel. Okay, but you're thinking, okay, this is super easy for me, or it's probably not the first time learning this, then we can move on to the harder cases. And then we might see a situation where the unknown that you're solving for, let's say x, appeared more than once. Maybe this. So whenever that happens, you want to move all the x to one side, preferably the left hand side, and then you want to move all the numbers to the other side, which means in this case the right hand side. So this is where it would really help if you know like the basic way of moving stuff really well, right? For example, this is a 3x. Now there is nothing in front of the 3x, right? That automatically means a plus. So imagine this is plus 3x. So when you move a plus to the other side, it becomes a minus. All right, so when the 3x go to the left, it becomes minus 3x. And then at the same time, when this minus 1 moves to the right, it becomes a plus 1. Okay. Now, if you do this kind of things in the detailed way, it'll look quite messy because you would think like to move the 3x, you want to take away 3x on both sides, and then to remove the plus 1, you want to add 1 on both sides, and suddenly you have a lot of stuff to deal with. So that's why it's really important that you can like learn the first way. So again, if you're not familiar with that, you want to practice a little bit before you move on. And then we can simply simplify both sides. So 2x minus 3x is negative x. And 5 minus plus 1 is 6. Then we want to remove this negative. So you can imagine this is negative 1 times x, which means you can divide both sides by a negative 1. So the negative negative cancel out on the left hand side, and 6 over minus 1 is negative 6. Okay? Well, actually this is the detailed way. So from this you see, if you have negative x equal to 6, what happened is somehow you can just move the negative to the other side. Alright, it just so happened that the opposite of a negative is also just a negative, right? Because if you think about it, if you negative a negative, it becomes positive, right? And positive is it's basically what we want, okay? Positive x is like just x. Alright, so it's possible to just move the negative to the other side. Alright, even though this is technically the detailed way. So let's look at more example. Maybe now we introduce some brackets. So for this situation, you will want to expand everything first. Alright, so it's 2x minus 6 equals to, so be careful with the negative, negative 6x, and negative 3 times 1, negative 3. Then we move all the x to the left hand side. So this is a negative 6x, so when you go to the left, it becomes a plus. And then this is also a negative, so like as in a minus. So when they go to the right, it becomes a plus. So it's negative 3 plus 6. Then we do the usual thing, we add them up, and then divide. Right, when this 8, as in times 8, go to the other side, it becomes divided by 8. So that's probably not hard either. Next situation that is possible is you start with a bunch of fractions. Maybe this. Then one of the way to do these would be you try to get a common denominator among all the fractions first. So I'm guessing you should be able to get common denominator, but if you forgot, you want to make 2 and 3 go to the same number, as in like a common multiple. So it would be nice if you use the least common multiple, but technically it's okay if you use something bigger. So the least common multiple of 2 and 3 is 6, as in like they both go to 6. So for 2 to go to 6, you need to multiply 2 by 3. What that means is you need to multiply the top by 3 as well. And then for 3 to go to 6, you need to multiply by 2, which means the top also need to be multiplied by 2. Right, that's how you get common denominator. So we do the same with unknowns. So 2 and 3 common denominator was 6. Again, for 2 to go to 6, you need to times 3. That means the top x also need to be times 3. So that's 3x. And then for 3 to go to 6, again, you times 2. So the top x also times 2. So that's 2x. Yeah, you just add up the numerator. Then it becomes pretty straightforward, right? You want to remove the divided by 6, so you times it to the other side. Well, I'll just do it 4 times 6 is 24. Then you divide by 5. It's perfectly fine to leave your answer as a fraction, and from now on all the answers are probably fractions because I'm just making the question up as I go. So the chance of me making nice numbers is quite low when there are fractions, you know. So this. So at this point, if you want to pause the video and give it a go, I would encourage that. If not, the common denominator between 5 and 3 would be 15. So for 5 to go to 15, you times 3, so the top is also times 3. So let's say I do it slowly. So it's 3 bracket that. Now, then be careful with the negative, so it's minus. And then for 3 to 15, you times 5, so the top is also times 5. Then we want to expand the denominator. So it's 3x plus 9 minus 5x plus 10. At the same step, you could remove the 15 to the other side. So it's divided by 15. So when it goes to the other side, it becomes times 15. Then 3x minus 5x is negative 2x. Then plus 9 plus 10 is plus 19. Then you take away the plus 19, right? So you minus 19. 15 minus 19 happens to be negative 4. Then you want to divide the negative 2 as a whole, right? You remove that, so just divide it away. So maybe I'll write out this time. Right, negative negative is positive, so they cancel each other out. And then 4 over 2 is 2. Oh, we got a nice number. Okay. So this one maybe is a little bit complicated. So if you want, you can rewatch that part or like try repeating what I did by yourself. If not, we'll try one more. Okay. If you want, pause the video now, give this problem a try. If not, answer will coming. 3, 2, 1. Get common denominator. Maybe 12. So for 3 equal to 12, you need to times 4. So the top also times 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Minus. For 4 equal to 12 times 3. So the top also times 3. So we multiply the 12 to the other side. We also expand the top. So it's 16x minus 8. Be careful with the minus. Minus 3x minus 9. Okay. So now what do we have? We have 16x minus 3x. So that's 13x. And then we have negative 8 minus 9. I think that's minus 17. You add this to that side. Because it was a minus 17. So when I go to the right to add, so it's 29. So x is 29 divided by 13, right? To remove the times 13, you want to divide. So that should cover the basic types of all equations, except maybe one type that look like this. One weird kind of thing that you might see is somehow your unknown is in the denominator. Alright, then some people would want to like remove the top. Turn out there is no way to remove the top. Alright, so the only way is actually to move the bottom. Okay, which means sometimes you're moving the unknown, which is a bit less common. But that's the only way. So you need to imagine this is divided by x. So you want to move this to the other side. And the opposite of divide is multiplied. So when this divided by x moves to the right, it becomes times x. It becomes 2 times x, which simply means 2x, right? Then now you want to make x alone, so you want to remove this 2, but this is 2 times x. So you want to divide this 2 away, right? Then you found x, okay? So you might try a harder one, so maybe 4 over x plus 3 equal to 2. Give this a try if you want. If not, the answer is Again, you always multiply the bottom to the other side. It's 2 bracket x plus 3. Here you can choose to expand the bracket, but I think it would be a little bit faster if we remove the 2 right now. So this is 2 times the bracket. So if you remove its divide, 4 divided by 2 is 2. To remove the plus 3, you minus, so it's minus 1. So that should cover all the types of linear equation that you might see. And again, practice is very important. If you have your own source of good practice, then please do that. If not, maybe check out my membership.